Hey guys, welcome back to Ridiculous Radio. Um, it's me, Conrad. So tonight we're gonna have Jeremy Turgeon back on. I'm gonna shoot him the link here in a few minutes. I'm just kind of getting prepared. Josh will be in the comment section tonight. He's kind of sick. You know what I'm saying? Um, I guess he's can't stay off the toilet. It's not funny, but so let me get this going here. Oh shit! I already got one viewer. What? No way. And while I do that, I'm gonna send the link to Jeremy. So how'd everyone's Christmas go? Yeah, there we go. All right. So while we wait for Jeremy, um, yeah, my Christmas went overall good. Um, kids over for the weekend and stuff. Not gonna talk about bad. Oh shit! There's Jeremy. Hey man, how's it going?
What's up, dude?
Not too much. So it's just gonna be you and me tonight because Josh is out with shits. So
Wait, an audio problem on my end. Hang on, let me see. Do. All right, let's see. Is that better?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just gonna be you and me tonight. Josh will probably pop up in the comments though, but he's out with the shits and he said he didn't want to be running back and forth to the bathroom. So I don't really blame him there. Um, so yeah, last time we talked, you were still in like construction with your new reptile room and stuff.
Yeah, man. It's
How-
it's a little past that now.
yeah, yeah, it looks a lot more organized, man.
Yeah, sitting on a freaking on my table here. Yeah, it's definitely organized. The room is certainly full, which is pretty great. So we're pretty chock full of a little bit of everything right now.
Man, you're killing me with those Amazon tree boa pictures you keep posting though.
Dude, I've got some Amazons, man. Yeah, I didn't think when I started to get them, I didn't think I was going to get as many as I did, and then the addiction definitely set back in, and I might have a
Yeah,
little.
let me pull you up on solo real quick. How do I do this? There we go. Oh man. Yeah, that's beautiful. I really even the pictures, I mean, you posted it just blew me away.
Yeah, so this is Hellboy. This is the one that I've had for a while now. I've had him for a few months, and he's absolutely crushing it. So right now, most of my stuff right now is imports that I've been raising up and establishing, and they're doing great. Haven't had really any issues with them, um, which is pretty cool. Amazons are one of the few species that, as imports, usually you don't have too many problems with. Every once in a while it happens, but they're usually pretty hardy.
Yeah, Josh was racing one up for a while that was an import, and the guy who sold it to him told Josh they couldn't get it to feed, and Josh had it feeding like right off the bat, you know. So
They can they can be a little finicky. I've definitely had some in the past that time before they start feeding, but once they get on it, man, they get on it. So that was one of my reds. This is another red. This is the one I had just posted photos of.
oh wow,
Yeah, he's even more red than that last one, which
it's super brilliant, man.
yeah, it's ridiculous. The photo that I posted of him, like I did, there was no editing to the saturation or anything. That's just how the snake is.
Um,
Light me up, but
so are there not many really wild, I mean, established captive bred populations then in the U.S. or?
there are. The biggest problem is most people stayed away from them because of that attitude. You know, um, most people didn't want to deal with them. So there's always been a handful of people that have been working with them. But you go to show it to somebody and it bites you 6 times. You know
Right.
what I mean? So it's like, oh no!
I was kind of waiting for him to light you up. So.
Yeah, if you work with them, now I'm not gonna lie, I have some that will annihilate me. But and one of them, oddly enough, is one of my captive bred ones. So, so it happens. But oddly enough, I mean, the biggest thing is movement. They're super keyed into movement. They're a very visual species. So if you make a fast movement by their face, they're coming right for you. So it's all about understanding that behavior pattern. Um,
Kind of like working with like a baby yellow anaconda, for instance, real nervous.
exactly. Let's see. Hey, sweetie.
So I got a question. I watched your guys' video that Donnie dropped today on the channel.
Yep.
Um, how hard is it to get into that voice?
Into my science voice, it's not very difficult at all.
There you go. That's awesome. That doesn't hurt your throat or anything.
Amazingly, no. I thought it would after a while, but it actually doesn't.
I, I can pull off a Pinocchio from Shrek.
Okay. All right.
It does hurt my voice though, so I try not to. But I'm a real boy.
That's actually pretty good.
So
Hey, sweetie.
um, so how old is this one?
This girl's about 2 years old. This girl was actually captive bred. She was produced by Keith McPeak. And this animal is, to me, the ultimate example of don't judge a book by its cover when it comes to the color changes of Amazons. So when I got the snake, she was patternless orange. That was it. And now, as you can see, she's actually a bicolor. And she's got some black spots in her that she didn't have before. But I got her like the year she was born, 2 years ago, and I've got pictures of her on my Instagram. She was just patternless orange. And now that is totally not the case, and her belly's super red and everything. And she's just a really awesome looking Amazon.
All right. Well, so what are like the temp requirements and humidity requirements on?
So nothing too extreme. Amazons don't like it really hot. So like right now, my room is probably sitting like around 72 degrees right now. And that's ambient for basically everything. I give them a hot spot of around like 80 to 85, depending on how the room kind of fluctuates. Humidity wise, I keep them on essentially Reptichip. It's an off brand of Reptichip, but they do like some higher humidity. And also, oddly enough, they're not even though they're cousins to emerald tree boas and Amazon basins, they don't perch like your typical tree boa. They will not just sit on a single perch. They'd rather either sit on the ground or they'll sit on a shelf instead. So usually what I end up doing is I have this, let's see if I have some in here, not in a cage. No, of course not. So essentially what I have is this green plastic mesh.
Okay.
And I cut a big enough piece so it hits the the ends of the enclosure, so it bows up like this, and they'll actually sit right on top of it. And once they get too big for that, I'm working right now to get my hands on some really large cork bark tubes.
All right.
And what I'm essentially going to do is cut those in appropriate sizes and then cut them diagonally in half. So this way they'll sit at an angle, and it can double as hide box and platform.
So Dan left a comment for you.
Hi, Dan. It's my boo thing. Oh man, but yeah, I mean, so their humidity requirements definitely like in the moderate humidity range, so between like 40 and 60%. This room gets pretty dry during the winter, so it's a little bit more of a challenge, which is why I've been using the Reptichip stuff. I love it. For the Amazons and for my Bloods and Short Tails, it's like perfect.
All right. Sweet. So did you end up having many clutches this year, if anything?
Unfortunately, no. You know, as you know, the last time we talked, this room was under construction, and moving things from one part of the house to the other totally threw off my season. So I actually only ended up producing 3 clutches of animals, 2 ball python clutches, and then a jungle carpet clutch. And the rest, anything else that went, ended up giving me slugs, which was a massive bummer. But I mean, it's part of the game when you're moving to 2 very different parts of your house, and you know it was a lot harder for me to dial in the temperatures in this room than it was downstairs. So that just threw a bunch of stuff off. So this year, however, I'm really excited because we've already got a bunch of pairings happening. Ball pythons are crushing it this year. I should probably see anywhere between 5 and 8 clutches of ball pythons this year, which is the majority of the females I have ready to go. I've got my retic is already ovulated, so that'll be the first clutch of the season. Rob and I are going to do some joint projects on the Borneos, and then I've got a few carpet things that are going this year that I'm like just getting ready to start pairing some stuff carpet wise, and then the Centralians will go in the beginning of spring. So fingers crossed, as long as no crazy temperature spikes happen in here, which I don't think that'll happen this time. I think we'll be good to go. So next season should actually be a pretty solid season.
Well, sweet, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what you produce. So what's the retic pairing looking like? So
the pairing platinum marble, which is that boy. I don't know if you can see him up there, just kind of chilling. So platinum marble to this girl right here, which is my Super Tiger Orange Ghost Stripe.
Okay.
So this will all be at the very least Tiger Head Orange Ghost Stripe stuff. To my knowledge, nobody's done marble orange ghost stripe stuff, so this will be the first big push for that project, which I'm actually really excited about. So if I can get a male marble tiger het OGS that I can hold back, and then I'll end up breeding it back to mom in a couple of years, that would be ideal. So I can get tiger marbles and super tiger marbles that are also orange ghost stripes. So
you plan on doing any cow stuff with her, or?
Right now, no, but I do have some cow stuff planned for her in the future. The cow, I love the cows for sure, 100%. But I really wanted to plug the OGS stuff into the marble. I have a GC Phantom that I'm raising up, so I can do some cows and golden child cows in the future. So that'll be a fun project. And then I've also got this girl. Hey, sweetie. This is an Indo-Caramel Sunfire.
Oh man, yeah,
We're gonna plug this in.
she is gorgeous.
Yeah, I love this snake. So we're gonna plug this into the OGS stuff as well. So this is a girl. I probably should have gotten a male, but
You're,
um,
you're gonna pair her with one of the babies then.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I already knew what I was going to do this season and next season with her, so I was like, I don't mind waiting. But the caramel OGS stuff hasn't been done. People are just starting to make hets and double hets. Um, so we'll probably see it within the next 3 to 6 years, which will be pretty cool. But there's only like 1 or 2 people that are even entertaining that project right now. So there's still a lot to be done with that. So to plug that in and then get the Sunfire in there and Marble in there, there's some cool potential in there for sure.
All right. So what you have going on carpet wise then? Because I know I want to get more into carpet pythons because after I got that, I don't know if it's a male or a female at this point because it's a really big coastal, and I've heard the males get huge.
Yeah, they can.
Um, so, and it's already like 4 years older than what I was told it was.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I really don't know at this point. um, but I mean, that thing is fucking sweet. I love taking them out and everything. So,
Oh hell yeah. Yeah. So carpet wise, I've got. Let's see. I'm gonna look at everything. I'm pairing up my Azanthics, my coastal Azanthics. So I didn't even plan on doing that this year. I was going to give the female 1 more year, but I happened to have her out, and when I was palpating her, putting her back, she's like loaded with follicles. So she's right. I mean, she's got the age to breed. She's just a little on the smaller side. So I've been kind of pushing her a little heavy with food, and that's actually been helping the follicular growth as well. So so we'll do some Azanthic stuff. I'm hoping to also be doing some double het snows because we missed them last year. So I'm going to pair that Azanthic male with my albino female. Um, and then I will probably, I don't want to really stretch that male too thin, but if he really lands those 2 girls well, and I feel comfortable, then I might also push him on to my Tiger Jag female. So then we'll just do Tigers and Jags and Tiger Jags het for Azanthic. Not doing anything jungle wise this year, only because my big Ocelot Jungle Jag that went last year, she gave me 2 good eggs and a bunch of slugs, but the slugs had actually got twisted up in her oviduct. So luckily was able to get everything out. She's fine, but I don't want to risk breeding her. So I had one other girl that was like right on the cusp of going, but she's not really producing any follicles, and I'm not really in a rush to push her. I'd rather give her another year and then just have her be rock solid. And by that time, I'll have a couple other jungles ready to go. So I'm taking the year off of jungles. And then I'll also have some bredli going. I've got Stonewash to het and then Stonewash to genetic stripe. So we'll do some Stonewashes and hets, and then we'll do double het Stonewash genetic stripes too.
okay. So what was I gonna? So will those be posted on Morph Market when they are available, or how'd you do your availability?
Yeah, so usually I'll throw something up on my Facebook. I'll just throw like a big list of stuff with no prices, obviously, because you can't sell on Facebook. And I'll throw a couple like really smoking individuals on my Instagram story and just be like DM me for details. But that I kind of save that as like the first round just to see what people are potentially interested in, and then after a month of letting that cycle, I'll shift it all over to Morph Market.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Morph Market's been
So
very in the past. So
I should definitely watch your Facebook and Instagram then.
yes, for sure.
So,
Whenever I'm in here, I'm usually taking photos of something with it. And you know, like I have some Amazons that that I got in as part of like bigger groups that I got when I only really wanted maybe one or two out of a group of 3 or 4 or 5. So I've just been raising them up and establishing them. So I've got some Amazons that I'm going to make available soon that are all established. They're feeding well. They're all just crushing life right now. And so every once in a while when I'm cleaning them, I'll take a photo and be like, hey, he's available or he's going to be available soon. Get a message. You know, Amazons are hard because most people aren't captive breeding them and really readily imported. So pricing is very difficult because you can get, you know, somebody might post a patterned yellow animal that's imported for $150. And then you've got somebody that's got a captive bred patterned yellow animal. They might want $300. You know, of course, most people are going to jump to the 150, you know, and since they're not necessarily a difficult species to maintain, even as imports, you know, it's not like you can be like, well, you know, this captive bred is rock solid. It's like, well, chances are, depending on how long that person's had that import, that's also a rock solid animal. So it's a little harder to decipher that. But I will say there is definitely a clear difference on the just that rock solidness of a captive bred Amazon, having worked with both captive bred and imported animals. Once you get imports established, they're great. But, you know, if you were to compare a freshly imported juvenile Amazon and a captive bred, you know, 2-3 month old baby Amazon, like you can just tell like they're a lot less reactive. They're ready to just crush and annihilate food, and you can mess with them and they're not going to freak out. Whereas you run all those risks with the imports because they're just not used to people, of course. So trying to find that middle ground, you know, where it's like, hey, this animal's not a fresh import. It's established, it's feeding, but it's not captive bred. So, you know, so you try to find a price point for that, and you end up somewhere in the middle, of course. But, you know, you're like, man, like, even if it's a 4 or 5 foot Amazon, you're still not going to get that $300+ Okay. Stop! Don't lie to the people.
You have a channel. We've seen you. um, so, all right. Um, yeah, I might also be interested in those if you end up producing some too.
Hell yeah. I've got some pretty cool Amazon things lined up. I showed you the boys, but I haven't showed you everything I got. So,
all right. Well, sweet. So what's some of your favorite things you guys produced over at Nerd this year? Let me ask.
man, there's been quite a few things. I mean, I always love hatch and water monitors. That never ever gets old. You know, 6 month wait period, number one. You know, so when it hatches, it's like a massive accomplishment in general. And then when you see like it's a black dragon, you know, you just get this totally black monitor with that little eye poking through the egg. You're just like, ah, it's so cool. Um, so I definitely never get tired of that. We hatched out some pretty badass marble retic combos this year. I really like the marble gene, and it's really variable. One of the coolest parts about the marble gene is when you cut the eggs. If you cut eggs, when you cut the eggs, marble combos, the albumin in the marble combo egg is actually green. Whereas in other non-marble combos, it's the regular clear or maybe off yellowy kind of.
Okay, I think I've actually seen that in a couple of pre-work pet sold videos way back, like
Yeah,
a couple of years back when he was doing it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So we did one, and then I think Garrett Hartle had done another
Oh,
one.
you're on, what the fuck? There we go.
Did we lose connection for a
Sorry.
sec?
Whoa. Yeah, yeah. You start going in slow motion and like cut.
Oh,
and I'm like, and then it like sped up to catch back up. It was really cool.
oh man.
Um,
But yeah, so the marbles,
But
so that's really cool to see. And it's also really helpful when you're trying to identify. If you take all the babies that have that green albumin, you know it's a marble combo, you just put that aside. Either put it in a different bin, or if the babies are all ready to come out, like they just come right out of the egg, put them in a different bin to soak or whatever. So that's a really helpful way to determine what your offspring are, at least if they have the marble gene or they don't. So we did like some cool like 5-6 gene marble combos on the retics, which was pretty cool, and also interesting to see how variable the marble gene can be in really similar combos. So like the difference between platinum tiger, marble, phantom, and same thing, just minus phantom. The difference in that is quite noticeable. So I thought it was very interesting. Um, and then for ball pythons, we did some pretty interesting ball pythons this year. We definitely hit some really crazy like odium stuff, but then some of the pairings I had done were not necessarily lower end, but I'll just say simpler combos that still produce very interesting babies. So like we did like coral glow, black pastel, leopard stuff, and you get those really deep contrasting purples and oranges, and it was just something that I knew that we could pair up, and what we knew we were going to like what we saw. Like that was essentially the goal of that. And then we did some ridiculous odium stuff. We are jumping back on the Desert Ghost bandwagon because we've just had it like existing and floating around, and we have like random hets here and there, but we never actually really dived into it all that much. So this season we definitely did. We produced lesser yellow belly and pastel lesser yellow belly Desert Ghosts, which to my knowledge are pretty new. Maybe only one or two other people have done it. And they look silly, like really silly. We haven't really shared them because we want them to get a little bit more size to them where you can really see that contrast.
Oh.
But right out of the egg, I was like, God damn, that's cool.
I'll have to wait till you guys post them up on the page then.
Yeah, I think they're probably sitting right around 200 grams now. So probably in another month or so, we'll do a Desert Ghost photo blast because we did do some cool stuff. And then we've got stuff like this. This is like a pastel Desert Ghost het clown. So we've got a bunch of this stuff happening too. So we'll be doing some more Desert Ghost clown combos.
That is beautiful though.
Yeah, these guys are silly. And that contrast, man, I mean, that's just clean.
Yeah.
This one's got a really cool head pattern too.
So are those anyway like related to like the bumblebee morph or
Having pastel in them? No.
very true. So I stopped really like paying attention to ball python. Pull this back up. To like ball python morphs because like I paid attention to them for a long time, and I'd like watch Nerd's old website, because like they'd always post like that whole huge list. So
Yeah.
I was like caught up on a lot of them as a teenager. Then I kind of fell out of reptiles for a few years, and by the time I got back in, that like there's like 10,000 ball python morphs now, so
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy to think about. Like, I started keeping and breeding ball pythons. Man, I don't even know. I got my first ball python 16 years ago, so I started probably breeding maybe 12 or 13 years ago, breeding ball pythons. So to think about what it was then to where it is now, like, I mean, seeing mutations now that didn't even exist, they weren't even a blip on the radar,
Right.
and then thinking like, man, like a male coral glow from Nerd back then was 65 grand, and you now see a male coral glow for $150.
Right.
that to me is forever the craziest thing. Same thing with bananas were more expensive than coral glows, and now they're the same price, and everybody geeks out about banana, and they forget that essentially it's the same thing as coral glow.
That's, oh man. So, which leads me to like my next question. Do you see retic morphs in the next 10, 15 years getting like the same amount of potential with the genetics and random like mutations popping up that we did in ball pythons in the past 15 years?
Yeah, I
Not to that extreme, obviously, because we're not allowing imports of retics anymore,
right.
which is kind of hard, but
Yeah, I don't think you'll see anywhere nearly as much genetically in retics as you do in ball pythons, primarily for that exact reason. We're just not importing them. So right there, you've knocked out really any potential of getting anything truly ridiculously new. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that with certain line breeding or with certain projects, you might see something weird pop out. That's always a possibility. But right now, I can't necessarily see it going too crazy. Also, the thing to think about with retics too is the retic market is very bizarre. So I'll go back to the marble stuff for example. So like I've seen marbles recently posted on Morph Market for anywhere from $400 to $1,100 for just a marble, no hets, no nothing, just a marble. Um, So seeing that wide of a price gap for this essentially the same exact animal, one might be a little more extreme than the other, but that doesn't necessarily constitute, a $700 price difference, right? It's
yeah.
the same morph. So when you start seeing that kind of stuff, at least in my eyes, because I've seen it happen with like other things in the past, certain ball python mutations and stuff, you get this rockiness because you get some people who are like, oh man, it's going for $1,100. I should jump in on this project. There's still maybe some financial meat on the bone, so to speak. But then if they go 2 extra pages into Morph Market, they'll see the same thing for $400, and then they might want to stay out of it if they, actually go and search that far. So the biggest hindrance with retics is they're a big snake.
Yeah.
Mean, not everybody can maintain one of those animals. So, as amazing as the mutations are, your your clientele is very different. You because
All right, limited by a bunch,
exactly. And even when you start, because I've got asked this a lot recently, is like the introduction of like super dwarfs into other genetics and like just shrinking everything. And that's certainly a possibility, but it's important to realize that you're talking 10 to 12 years, multiple generations of breeding to get that small size, because you breed super dwarf, a pure super dwarf to a mainland morph. Now it's
You got a 50% super dwarf.
50% super dwarf. So there's still the possibility for it to get 15 foot.
Right.
You know,
And I actually have a 37.5% dwarf. That was my first retic. And she's 3 years old, gonna be 3 years old in January.
mm,
She's already pushing 13 feet. And then and that's from prehistoric. And then I have a male Anery Golden Child, 25% Jampea, 25% Kalatoa
mm,
from Garrett Hartle over at Reach Out Reptiles. And he's maybe like 7 foot, and he's only like a few months younger than she is. So,
yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of variables when we start dealing with that kind of stuff. Because we get asked all the time at Nerd, like, when are you going to make super dwarf cows? Right? Because everybody wants a cow, but they want it to be 5 to 7 foot. And it's like, well, even though they come from smaller lineage, right? Like my original Tiger Het OGS, she maxed at like 14 and a half feet. at like 8, 9 years old. So I mean, they are still going to get a decent size. So now you're going to take that, breed that. Now you've got 50% dwarf, 50% super dwarf. So there's still that chance of getting bigger. Then you have to take that offspring, raise that up, breed that to another pure super dwarf, and hope genes carry over, and blah 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 blah. So there's just that element of needing to do so many generations of breeding, and then the final variable in this is a lot of times super dwarfs, they want to move. They just want to run. They can be really squirrely. They're not just going to sit there and be a big bump on a log like a big, 15 to 18 foot retic is going to be,
Right.
big and fat. So you have to take that into account too, because sometimes squirreliness comes defensiveness. If you can't keep up with a retic that's moving super fast, it's going to feel some kind of way, and you might,
It's gonna be really uncomfortable. Yeah.
yeah. So, and even a bite from a 5 or 6 foot retic can do damage.
Yeah. It wouldn't feel good.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't feel good. So there's a lot of variables when it comes to retics. Like that's one of the reasons for me personally. Like I have two very specific projects that I'm really dialed in on: the OGS marble stuff, and then the same thing but throwing the caramel into it. Because for me, those are the things that I think are the coolest, in my opinion. And I have like a couple other random things too, but project wise, I know that's what I want to do, because I also don't want to be pumping out 300 retics a year.
Right.
You know,
And we actually had a like 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you're familiar with Snake My Day. They're a snake rescue in the UK. Well, they take in a bunch of basically abandoned snakes or snakes that were given up, and they said it's really hard sometimes keeping up on the retics, especially with their new regulations as a rescue. They have to meet their cage requirements, have to meet 1 foot long per foot of snake.
jeez.
So like they're in the midst of building two 30-foot cages right now for a couple of retics that yeah, I couldn't imagine. They said, like, just think about all the ones that, if you produce a good few clutches, and you get, I don't know, 100 retics, you get two good clutches of 50, which is way more than normal, probably. More, you're looking at on average 30. So let's say you produce like 100 retics in a year. How many of those can you guarantee are going to actually go to a good home too? Which is
Right.
kind
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's something that most people don't take into consideration when it comes to the large constrictors, be it a retic or a berm or an anaconda or anything like that. And even not even the large constrictors, even stuff like a big carpet python. A lot of people don't realize and recognize that a big coastal can be over 10 feet. That's a good sized snake. You know, um, so those are just the kind of things that we have to think of. So that those are really the primary reasons I don't really see retics ever taking off in that way. I think you're going to have your hardcore retic people that are in it because they love the animals, they love what they're about, they love the colors that you can get out of them, and I think of course you'll get new people that come into that, but I don't ever think you'll see that surge into where like you might see a new phenotype pop up from a line bred something or anything like that, and who knows if I'm wrong, cool, you know,
of right.
from from what I see, the way the market seems to just be kind of moving, it's, I don't necessarily see it happening, and the final, like we were just saying, the final thing is like being able to keep up, with that, so like I know for Nerd, we're working on downsizing our retics, and I mean, so like Kevin already downsized when the Lacey Act was impending over here. He had downsized a lot of his collection, which is how a lot of people who are like making really cool retic stuff now, that's how they were able to do it, because Kevin let stuff go, you know, um, and then it never ended up happening. But now we're just seeing like that market is just kind of plateaued. If you're not producing either like really low end single gene or simple double gene combos, or you're not producing the craziest cream of the crop ultimate top mutations, you're just kind of sitting around in the middle, and eventually somebody's going to buy it. But do you want to wait on 300 to 500 retics for an eventually.
Right.
You know,
Right. Because, most people, especially I've noticed when it comes to retics, have, like you said, a set project in mind that they want to work on because they know that they're limited in the amount of retics they can properly house.
yeah, exactly.
So,
Which in one aspect I think is a good thing though, because I mean think about ball python breeders, right? I mean it's really easy to set up a CV70 and you got 30 snakes right there. You can't really do that with retics. If you're keeping retics in racks,
yeah.
you're getting like 6-foot freedom breeder racks because you're working with dwarf or super dwarf stuff. You still only have 6 or 7 levels per rack, and that takes up about the same amount of space as that. So 6 or 7 animals as opposed to 30. So you're kind of forced into that. Like, okay, well, what do you really like about retics? Like point that out to yourself and then just kind of work with it. So like I said, for me, it's the OGS, marble, and caramel stuff. So, the biggest thing that is for me, once I kind of get to that point where I'm producing, OGS caramels and OGS caramel suns and whatever, like I'm good from that point on. Like I don't necessarily see myself breeding retics for, 10 or 15 years. I might see myself breeding them for a couple of years consistently. And then
kind of get what you want.
and then after that just kind of be like, okay, yeah, you know what, I think I might breed retics this year, and then I'll take 2 years off, and then I'll breed them again, and then I'll take a couple of years off or whatever, just because you think about, you got Jay Brewer, you got Shane Costello, you got obviously Nerd, like producing volumes of these animals. So it's like you immediately have a lot of competition, and it's like, I'd rather just deal with what I want to deal with, because at that point, if I get stuck with something, I'm still gonna love it. I'm still gonna enjoy up that enclosure and be like, man, this is still a badass snake.
Right. You're not getting stuck with 20, 30 snakes that you're not going to be able to house in
Exactly. And then you're like,
years.
ugly one though. Like,
Right. Yeah. Oh, I wish this one sold.
exactly. Somebody buy this, please.
Yeah.
Pre-sale. Let's go.
Um, so I really like the bad eaters that you guys have been sharing. I've always like the looks of them, but I could never find a reliable price tag on one when I was actually like interested in purchasing one a while back. How much would you guys be letting those go for if you guys ended up producing one?
So, I mean, we sold our big breeder female bat eater for, I want to say, like $4,500. And that was kind of like we need to make room price. So I think if we were like not really needing to make room and we could just, hang on to it and sell it if the right person came along, probably be more like 55 to 6,000, somewhere around there. For a big, so you figure babies would probably be anywhere from, depending on if there's morphs involved, if we're talking just a normal bat eater, maybe around $1,000. And then if there's morphs in there, it obviously would be more expensive from there. So like we did some jungle retic stuff this year. So 75% retic, 25% berm. And those, we're not selling any of those. Mostly because it's already hard enough to breed a bat eater and then get viable eggs. Then we're cutting that clutch, and there's like, snakes with babies with deformities and blah, 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 the challenges of dealing with hybrids. That mortality rate is much higher than breeding a pure species together.
Right.
So dealing with that. So the few that we have left that are feeding and doing really well, they're like some crazy random combos of retic morphs. So essentially we bred that bat eater, I think it was to like an albino motley tiger platinum sunfire thing. So we got these freaking stupid looking crazy babies, and we're just like, yep, we're keeping all.
These are all staying.
So and I mean, it wasn't many, of course, because that's just, like I said, part of the deal with hybrids. But we're like, man, these things, nobody's ever seen anything like this, so we're keeping them. That's also why we haven't really posted any of them, because we're like, you're not ready to see what we did.
So, are you guys gonna have more Viper boas at Nerd?
Possibly. We when it comes to stuff like that, we get them in when they're on the lists, because we're essentially buying from either importers or wholesalers or whatever. So when they're on the list and the price is right, we'll usually get them in. The problem with a lot of the Candoya is just being imported, not often, but being imported, you get a lot of problems. They can be difficult to establish. Um, and it just takes up some time. We got really lucky this past year. We've gotten in a Viper boa that was actually gravid. She had babies. We were able to establish those babies really, really quickly. But that female gave us a bunch of problems after giving birth on feeding. And as a matter of fact, she'd only taken, I think, 5 meals from the point of giving birth to now. And for I don't remember date-wise exactly where we're at, but you can get a good idea where she had those babies. We established those babies and sold all of those babies. And in that time, she'd only eaten 5 meals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they can be kind of tricky. But yeah, I mean, we get them up. Like I said, if the number's right, we'll definitely get them, because I think everybody at Nerd is fascinated with Candoya species. So whenever we can get them, we do try to get them.
All right. How many normal Asian water monitors did you guys end up with?
Oh man, we did one main clutch of like true just normals from our Gubu stuff. I think that was like 30, around 30. It was like 29 to 31, somewhere around there. I can't remember.
How long is that wait list?
Uh,
Because I noticed you guys were sold out when I was looking, and I was gonna get myself like a Christmas present. You know what I'm saying? And I
yeah,
really have fallen in love with. People
our,
are like, "Why pay that $800 price tag when you could just get one from me from 200?" I don't want that one. You know what I mean? This one's socialized. It doesn't have parasites. Like, I'll be good to go.
yep, exactly. Yeah, we get that all the time with the water monitors and with the Cayman too. Like, why are they so expensive? I can get one from so and so for 20% that price. And you're like, yeah, well, it's either gonna die
Well, do it then. You know.
or it's gonna be a psychopath. So we're trying to save you all of that headache. And we're charging you for saving you for that headache.
Right. Exactly.
Um, yeah, that wait list was probably twice as long as the number of babies that we produced. So we
How
will have more. I think we have more clutches incubating, but 6-month incubation period. We're just waiting.
how do I get on that wait list before it doubles again?
You got to shoot over an email to us, newenglandreptile@gmail.com, and just put right in the subject line, wait list for monitor. Give us your contact info, your name, all that stuff, and then we throw you onto a big spreadsheet. And as stuff is ready and available for sale, we just start reaching out to people.
All right. So that's you better be ready as soon as we're reaching out to you, sort of thing, or is that?
For the most part, right now, yes, because people have been like, "Oh my god, I've been waiting." We've had some people that because of the time of year, they're like, "Oh man, it's Christmas, man. I can't afford $1,000 to right now. I just bought all these presents and did this, And we're like, "All right, well, next time." We got a whole bunch of other names to go through. We get it, but so then we say to them, do you want to be kept on the wait list, or do you want to be removed from it? Because we won't really have any for a while. And it's the frustrating part is like when people called us in May saying, yeah, put me on the wait list, and then December happens right after buying Christmas presents, and we're like, guess what?
You're cutting out. Oh shit. You cut out
Did I?
a little bit. You there?
Yep, I'm here.
Technical difficulties. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
What the fuck's going on? Something's going on with the stream. Oh, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. All right. Yeah, like it started up again. But all right. Yeah. So how you said so like the next clutches will be like coming out about June, July-ish, or would
Uh,
that be
I think April is when the next clutch is due to hatch, and then it'll be probably like 2 months before those babies are ready to go. So yeah, probably around June.
Josh said I was frozen. So I guess it's probably my Wi-Fi acting up then. Gotcha. That's awesome. All right. And then how long do you guys usually take with them as babies before you guys ship them out?
So it certainly depends. The stuff that's like fourth, fifth plus generation captive, I mean, basically right out of the egg, those guys are super friendly. So it's just a matter of getting them feeding, getting them with some good size to them. So by the time they get to their new home, they're established and feeding, and they're rock solid. The stuff that's maybe like still second generation captive, we might hold on to those guys for a little bit longer, so that we can really work with them. And you can pretty much tell right off the rip, like you'll get, you say 80% of the clutch is wonderful. And then you get that 20%, which in theory might only be like two of a clutch, that like they give you the psycho eyes, and you're like, oh, you're going to be the one to spend all the time with. Those like second generation captive bred stuff where they're still like, they still got a little bit of that wildness to them. But usually anywhere from like 2 to 3 months, sometimes a little more, depending on if they're a real challenge. But from the point of hatching to that point is usually when they're ready to go. If we get some that are like really crushing it and they're super wonderful, easy to maintain, and they're like eating like champs, we might let them go a little sooner. But usually like it's that 2 month mark that's like the golden zone for getting them out.
All right. So you guys really killed me with that black dragon picture of baby in the egg. Man, that was fucking awesome.
I told you, man, that never gets old.
I I mean I've always loved monitors.
Mm-hmm.
I've owned a Savannah in the past, and I was in love with the thing. It was really cool. I mean, the people I got it from told me it was an asshole, which really wasn't the case. It was like one of the coolest, like I could hand feed it, like it would sit on my lap and I was able to like hand feed it like it's frozen shrimp when that's what it was on, and so
Yeah.
it was real easy to manage. And I was super surprised. They're like, well, we're having a baby soon. We just can't have it anymore. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
they told me that it would attack me over the smell of Burger King, which I found out wasn't the case. So I just don't know if these people are on like some drugs or like.
Maybe they just got their food and it was really raw still.
Yeah. But yeah. Make sure you let me know when you have some carpets available, though. I'd definitely love to get on that list for sure.
Hell yeah, dude! I'm really excited, especially this past season, only getting one clutch of carpets that was literally only two eggs. It was very depressing.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to hopefully it really looks like we're moving in the right direction to get like between 3 and 3 carpets this coming season. So that will be pretty exciting. So yeah, I'll definitely keep you posted on that.
Sweet. I definitely appreciate it. Yeah, we're coming up on that hour mark, so I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to talk about, or if
No, man, I'm stoked about coming back on. Thank you for the invite, man. And
not a problem. It's always great having you on. I mean,
yeah, man, no, I appreciate it. And I'm excited for this breeding season, man. So I'm all geeked now, having talking about all these projects. I'm like,
I feel that.
yeah.
Exactly. I get all geeked out talking about, like future because I want to work on diversifying, what I have before I really want to like key on what I really want to work with, because how am I supposed to know what I really want to focus on working with if I don't diversify first? So, but I know I've fallen in love with retics, I've fallen in love with carpets, I love my Annie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like now I know like my buddy's got to keep me posted when he has like some green Annies available. And
Oh yeah.
so because I want to end up producing since what I have is 75% yellow, 25% green, hoping I can get 100% green female from them, and maybe hybridize it a little bit more, a little bit on the
Making the evil hybrids.
yeah. And Josh says he's sorry he couldn't make it, but it was definitely awesome to watch.
Oh
And,
man. Oh, thank you for jumping on, man.
yeah, so I get what people hate about hybrids, but I mean, you also got to appreciate them for what they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
So
I I share a similar, and I've talked about this a couple times. I share a really similar view on hybrids as Barcheck. Like he and I don't necessarily have a problem with hybrids. The problem becomes when the animals aren't listed as hybrids, right? So, like with pythons and python hybrids, it's not necessarily a problem, right? Like if you breed a carpet python, it doesn't look like of them. It's very obvious. It's
right.
but like when you get into some of the uh, like great example, if you make a jungle corn, right? So 50% Cal King, and then you take that and you breed it back to a Cal King. So now it's 75% Cal King, 25% corn snake. It looks like a Cal King.
Okay.
So you lose all that corn snake influence, but there's just corn snake blood in there. But to the untrained eye, and to Joe Schmo, it's a Cal King.
Yeah.
So when you start getting into that stuff, that's when I have a problem with hybridization. There's a lot of different, like there's all these theories about certain traits being thrown into certain species that never existed before, and then there was always debate about them being hybrids. And another really great example is creamsicle corns, which is corn snake to rat snake. But we just all call them creamsicle corns. And then there was frosted corns, which was like a corn snake to I think like a gray rat snake or something like that. But they were just being sold as frosted corns, and it was like this cool gene that blah 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 blah. When in fact it was a hybrid. So that's when I have an issue with hybrids. But in any other context, dude, fucking do it. It's cool. It's interesting. It's fun.
You can't really mix up a bad eater for anything, though. I mean, you look at one and it's a bad eater.
You could go ahead and try.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right. Well, man, it was great chatting with you, and I definitely appreciate you coming back on. Josh said that we got to have you back on, or we need to make a trip up in person. So I've actually been contemplating moving to Pittsburgh, and that would honestly help with us like carpooling to make trips for shit like that. So
do I see Dan McGanos screaming no about hybrids? Is that what I see?
yes, yeah, that's exactly what you see happening.
Sorry, Dan.
He loves his hybrids though. He's even told me that he thinks Borneos and blood should be hybridized.
And, I've heard through the grapevine that could be a real thing too. But I've also heard that him and Rob might be trying to do a blood Borneo bred to a berm. I heard that might be happening at some point in the future. But I don't want to divulge too much of somebody else's projects. So
right, yeah, we won't. You guys will have to talk to Dan about that. All right. Well, thanks again, man.
Sure.
We'll talk to you next time.
All right, man. Take care.
Yeah, you as well. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, it's been fun. Dan said he can't say what he's thinking because they'll ban him. Um, you know, he just